Combatants of the 105th Tank Division. Entry by Retok Bay. The following happened when the units of the Korean People's Army were making a strategic temporary retreat from the Raktong River line. At that time, I was an assistant company commander in charge of cultural affairs. Ours was a security company charged with wiping out the remnants of enemy soldiers and reactionaries in Chonan County, South Chungcheong Province, and helping the local people build party organizations and people's government organs. When the retreat began, the company was ordered to be attached to the Special Reconnaissance Battalion of the then 105th Tank Division and advance northwards with the division's main force. The division, tasked with containing the enemy who was scheming to encircle our retreating units, was marching speedily towards the city of Suwon. 2 tanks were on a vanguard patrol, about 2 kilometers ahead of the division's main force. Regrettably, we did not know that enemy troops had already arrived at Suwon after landing in Incheon. Upon entering the city, the above 2 tanks encountered them. The situation was very critical because of the enemy's numerical edge. They decided to advance forward rather than turn back. After radioing a message to their following unit, they charged into enemy positions. Facing this surprise attack, enemy soldiers scurried around. The tanks ran the length and breadth of the city, destroying their combat equipment and barracks. Flames rose up here and there, throwing the enemy into confusion. At last, the enemy switched over to a counter-offensive, which involved a huge number of GIs, South Korean soldiers, and pro-American reactionaries, as well as tanks and artillery pieces. When our tanks ran out of shells, enemy soldiers encircled them, ring upon ring. The turrets turning round to keep the enemy off, the tanks rolled about. After a while, their tracks were broken and the fuel tanks got empty. When the enemy swooped on the tanks, the crew fired machine guns, and when the guns were out of bullets, there was a fierce fistfight. Corpses piling up around the tanks, the enemy ganged up on the injured tank men. At the last moment of their life, they shouted, "Long live General Kim Il-sung!" The story of these brave combatants' heroic death spread throughout the subunits of the division. My company soldiers made a firm resolve to revenge the deceased. We were ordered to build defense positions on a hill beside the wide road between Osan and Suwon. Our armaments were inferior, and it was obvious that American soldiers would advance along the road on fast-moving vehicles. Heavy machine guns were placed on both sides of the road. Soon afterwards, some jeeps sped down the road, probably to scout for our defense positions. We decided to open fire on the targets on their way back. As expected, we saw the cars turning back after a long while. Our heavy machine guns roared almost simultaneously, the jeeps set on fire, and the enemy scouts falling to the ground. The following day, an airplane appeared overhead, and the volleys of artillery fire, which targeted our defense positions, lasted for 3 hours. Then, preceded by 2 armored vehicles, enemy soldiers approached towards our trenches, shouting, "Avenge our tankman's death!" My company's soldiers all opened fire, followed by the rattle of an anti-tank gun. The armored vehicles blew up one after another. The thunder of our heavy machine guns and rifles filled the air. There were heavy casualties on the enemy's side, and the survivors escaped. On the afternoon of the 5th day after the battle began, the orderly of the 3rd platoon came up, breathing fast and telling me that his platoon leader was in a critical state. I rushed out of the trench and ran through a thick haze of smoke. The man with a bullet wound near his heart was gasping for air. I held the injured in my arms and called his name. He barely opened his eyes, calling me in a faint voice. All cried out, deeply lamenting the death of the platoon leader. I told the orderly to bring my blanket there. Then I took his blood-soaked party membership card from his breast pocket and kept it with mine, before carefully wrapping his body with the blanket. I wrote on a roll of paper, Im Yong-hu, leader of the 3rd Platoon Security Company in Chonan, Special Reconnaissance of the 105th Tank Division, hailed from Jiangjin County, South Hamgyong Province. This I put into a water bottle and buried with his body. I marked his grave on the map, thinking I would come back there after we achieved victory in the war and reunified the country. My company held on in the 10-day battle with a numerically superior enemy. As we all knew that if we failed to defend the hill, retreating units might be encircled, we fought literally with a do-or-die spirit. As shown, the 105th Tank Division is associated with the exploits of numerous combatants who fought heroically till death in the flames of war.